Thanks, Colin. Thanks, Edans. Thanks, the board. Thanks, John. Thanks, Susan. Delighted to be here. It's my fourth time in New Zealand. It's nice to put the weather on for me. Obviously, I'm Scottish. 25 years I've worked in economic development, and it's rather intimidating to meet a bunch of my fellow economic development people, because you'll know when I'm bluffing. You'll know the mistakes. I speak to lots of different people, lots of different audiences, but not often economic development, interestingly. I'm from the Centre for Local Economic Strategies. We think and do, so we're an independent research think tank who also do applied policy all across Europe and the UK. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. My job here is to set out how economic development is changing, the challenges we face globally, and to start thinking through some kind of new economic development language, including boom-goggling, and new economic development sort of thinking that's coming out of Europe particularly. There's three types of economists: one that can count and one that can't. How many economists does it take to change a light bulb? Sorry, how many economic development professionals does it take to change a light bulb? 10. 9 to write a strategy and 1 to change a light bulb. That's an office joke, that one. Is the accent okay? I know there's at least one Scot in the audience, so at least one person will know what I'm on about. Okay, what do we do? We're the leading UK member. 30 years we've been going. Our mothers and fathers of CLES put us in Manchester, in England, because they said, let's not have another bloody think tank in London. So that was good. And they were regional people straight away. They said, hold on, all these think tanks in London, let's have one in Manchester. We sit there in that happy bit in the middle. We are economists, public policy people, planners, but we're all about creating great places and good lives. We believe an economy is fundamentally about creating great places and fulfilled lives. It comes from the Greek word economy, oikonomos, which means keeper of the household. The economy is an empathic thing, an intimate thing, and arguably, and I will argue, is that the economy has become slightly detached from the people and places. The economy is a social construct. It's not something that lives there and then there's a people. It's something that we mould and we should be shaping for the benefit of people in place. And I think casino capitalism and what have you, I think global economy, global capitalism has kind of lost a bit of that. And that's, if you want me to just go to sleep now, that's all I'm going to say, basically. You know, it's about people in place. We work across the 4 nations of the UK, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and another one, England, and we also increasingly work across Europe. We work with national governments, maybe not so much the English national governments, like the Scottish, Welsh and Northern Ireland one, and also regional bodies and city regional bodies too, working 10 locations across Europe at the moment, including Bologna and Barcelona. We also work in Birmingham. The only working place would be, where's a bee I could work in New Zealand? What would it be? You've not got many bees, have you? Bluff. What have you got? Bluff. These are the stuff we do. It's kind of strategy, policy, practice. We're polygamists. We're polygamists as an organisation, and we're married to what you would call traditional economic development. We're married to politicians doing the hard, pragmatic job of sorting things out, economic development professionals looking at inward investment, all that traditional. But we're polygamists because we're actually in love with alternative. We're in love with perhaps a different way of conceptualising how an economy should function. In that sense, we are kind of punkish, yeah? We're punks. We're kind of like Coldplay, but I kind of prefer the Buzzcocks. Do you get that joke? We're also, I say, fairly uncompromising because the world needs us people to be, an organisation to be uncompromising, because there's a lot of woes. So in that sense, we are fairly acerbic at times to try and push the door open in traditional economic development to start bringing in other ways of thinking about how we run an economy which is truly socially and economically just and works within the limits of the environment. And that needs, in a sense, to be uncompromising and on that edge between tradition and the alternative. And we stride that edge, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully, but it's a good place to be and the right place to be. Just tell me if I start speaking too fast, because it happens. And also, could you just keep me in time here, Colin, because I'm at a hell of a flibbergibbet and I'll get all, yeah. One of the things about progressive economics need to think about is about wealth. Who owns wealth? Who influences it? Who benefits from it? Are defining features of all economies. And arguably economic development is about that. It's about wealth. How does it come? Where does it go? How does it go to the right places? Wealth is like kind of hydrology. It's like a water system. Wealth, where does it flow? Where are the burns, the reservoirs, the lochs that retain the wealth for local people and local endeavour? And it's not just scooshing out to the big estuary, out to the sea, yeah? It's actually being retained in some way within a place and act virtuously in that locality. And we see economic and social life as two sides of the same coin. And about 10 years ago, I had an epiphany, an economic development epiphany. You had one? It's a great moment, I tell you. You have to have it. I was meeting a director of economic development in a Scottish town, a poorish Scottish town, a fairly large town in Scotland. And I've known him for many years, this fella. And we were sitting around talking about his work and the town and its future destiny, post-industrial, Central Belt Scotland. And he said to me, you know what, Neil? Even the pound shops are closing down. Yeah. And I've not got enough tools in my toolbox. You know, I've got a hammer, I've got a spanner, I've got a screwdriver. I need someone else, and I don't know what to do anymore. He was saying this in the pub, by the way. He wasn't saying it to his members. Yeah, it was like one of those cold moments, you know, those moments, or an intimate moment where you can say, hold on here. And that made me think, hold on here, what are we doing in economic development? What's that about? How do we think about doing different things that actually deal with some of those long-standing issues? I mean, some places fell down in the UK and Europe in the 60s and 70s, and they've never really found an economic raison d'etre since then. Yeah, and also we create new places, but actually, how enduring are they as a place? So there's fundamental questions, and that got me thinking, epiphany, to think, hold on here, how do we start thinking about things in different ways? And what's happening in the last 5 years or so, and I'll explain a bit more in a minute, is there's a new movement growing across Europe, and I think you're part of it as well. There's a new movement growing that's actually saying, you know, hold on here. Global capitalism is not working all that well. It's not working well for some people and for some places. And economic development has got a role in mediating and facilitating a global economy that works better for people and places. And in Europe, and in our work, it's growing massively. It's not there yet, but we're in the foothills of this change. And there's no doubt about it, we need some change, because climate change, peak oil, peak water, peak soil, energy insecurity. I did a speech in Australia a few years ago, and I said the same thing. We've got peak everything. A guy put his hand up. Australians like that, they're brash. Cheeky bastard. Put his hand up and went like, yeah, mate, can I do an Australian accent? An Australian here? Yeah, mate, bloody right. It's peak bloody everything. Peak bloody everything. Yeah, of course, we're eating the planet. Yeah, it's peak bloody everything. So there's something we need to think about in economic development terms. Ageing and migration, a challenge to public resources. Growing global interdependency, but growing haves and have-nots and a rise of precariat across the world. And then you've got crisis in democracy. Global economic forces colliding with local democracy, banging in, and we're losing some trust with our politics. There's a range of crises, and I think economic development needs to start thinking about that bigger macro context to the very planet we live in, and what's our contribution to deal with those huge crises. This is Charles Dickens' Tale of Two Cities. And the start of this book goes, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epoch of belief. And this is the time I think we're in. We're in an age of great social pain. The German word Weltschmerz, world of pain. But there actually is some amazing flourishing, human and social and economic flourishing happening as well. And it seems to me that that flourishing's not got enough sustenance, it seems. And it's up for economic development, public policy, to give that human flourishing that we're seeing all around the place more sustenance to deal with some of those huge challenges we have. And just here's a new official map of London by the Office of National Statistics. And it's worse than that. It's worse than that, because not only we have the very rich there, the very rich don't even exist in part in a place. They're peripatetic. The rich used to, in Victorian times, the rich were in a place and they invested in that place. They were municipalists in the sense that they built, say in UK, Victorian parks. They built streets. They invested in the very fabric and nature of that locality. Now the very, very, very rich don't. They buy super yachts and move around the world. They don't land their money in a place and invest as much in that place. And if they do land it in that place, they tend to land and then they extract the money. Yeah? So we have an issue around the movement of capital and the flows of capital and how do we get wealth to stick. And then we'll go to boom-goggling. Boom-goggling is a phrase I invented, which I'm trying to get more and more people using it. It's not working. I've been doing it for about 15 years, boom-goggling. Anyway, boom-goggling, it's a myopia. It kind of says that all we need is another deep-sea port away for a boom. Yeah? All we need is that little bit of investment that's going to come in, and it'll be a land of milk and honey. Yeah? And economic development has this myopia in some senses, and some of us have that myopia. And it's like, and I go to places like, hey, Harry, what's the future of Hartlepool? And Harry, I'm inventing Harry, he's not called Harry, but I don't want to name names. Harry, what's the future of Harry? A marina. A marina, oh, it's great. We're going to get these yachts coming in across the North Sea. It's going to be brilliant. Hartlepool Marina? No. He's a boom goggler. He thinks the next thing is just this big ticket. There's no big ticket solution here. There's just a plural set of choices and options. And we need to be more plural in our outlook, it seems to me. And then we've got these things, this here, the eight, is there 8 there? The 8 richest men. Men. They're men. There's a lot of men here, actually. There's a lot of men in there. There's a few women as well, but there's a lot of men. Men. They own as much wealth as the 50th poorest in the world. This is not right, folks. It's not right. Now, I don't know what we can do about it in our own little places, but it seems to be a very economic development. We have to have something about this in terms of how does wealth go, where does it what happens to wealth. Okay, so what are the kind of challenges we've got? One of them is that business development is synonymous with economic development. Well, it's not. It's not. The way a business thinks, usually, and we're a charity, we're a business as well, I understand it, it's the year, it's the year end. It's just been our year end, the panic and getting everything sorted. We work in yearly cycles, maybe 3 yearly cycles, yeah? And it's about surplus for the business or profit for the business. That's different to economic development. An economy is a different thing to business development. They're not synonymous. There's similarities, but they're not synonymous. And then economic development is about economic growth. Well, you can develop economy, right? If you've got a pie, that's a pie, really. You get a pie, yeah? You can, and one person's got 90% of the pie, yeah? And a lot have got 10% of the pie. You can develop that economy so that more people get the same amount of pie. That's economic development, isn't it? We don't need to grow the pie necessarily. So economic development is too often seen as synonymous with economic growth. Or not. We can do economic development even if the economy's tanking. We can develop the economy in virtuous ways. So, you get me? Kind of. You're kind of. Yeah. The bigger the pie, the more to go around. Exactly. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with growing the pie, but it might not be the only option. Particularly if you've got environmental limits or space limits. I'm throwing in provocations, and I'm going to get, it's great. I love a good fight. We can have a fight later on, but particularly with some beers, it'll be brilliant. But there's some big rugby guys here, though. I'm a wee wimpy Scot, Go easy on me. What? Aye, true. Misalignment. Economic, social, environment aims are rarely aligned. Yeah? They're kind of out of kilter. People and place development is kind of secondary to financial return. It's seen as preeminent. The amount of conversation I've had in economic development, people saying, like, we've got this investment in, it's going to be great, blah, 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 blah. And then you say, what about the people? Oh, yeah, the jobs will come. Trickle down, trickle outwards. Yeah. After the fact, well, the fact might be that the wealth comes, but then some plutocrat takes it all away. Too often, we call that an extractive economy, extracting an economy that extracts. Many more, we've got some work at the moment looking at the extractive economy, the scale of an extractive economy, particularly in Manchester. How much money comes and then the return is extracted, and how much is landing and stays. Fundamental questions, really, in terms of economic development. Too often, inward investment and infrastructure, and hard infrastructure. Really, it's more about placemaking here, I think. And GDP is the big driver. What measures is what matters. Tends to be often GDP. Come on, what about happiness or well-being? These questions. Okay, now, how do we do for time? I'm all right. Fine, good. We stand on the shoulders of giants, don't we, folks? And I'm a big fan of sometimes reflecting. It's useful sometimes to reflect on where do we come from in economic development, and we've all got different inspirations. These are three of CLES's inspirations and mine, and funnily enough, they're all Scottish. No, they're not. Two of them are. Help me out then. Yeah, here's a wee quiz. The guy in the top left, any idea? No. My dad was a lot better looking than him. Any idea? Any planners about Patrick Geddes? Patrick Geddes, Scottish biologist, town planner, Francophile, educated actually in my home city of Perth. He also was Tel Aviv. He did the town plan for Tel Aviv. And what enlightenment, a polymath, if you like, Patrick Geddes. He said, it's inseparably interwoven nature of place, like a flower. There's all these different components. It's not just about the housing, the roads, the parks. It's about how they all interconnect as part of a system. He's seen it as if you take one bit away, or just isolate one bit, you lose the beauty of the whole. And town planning and planning of place is about that whole system of place. And of course, the economy is part of that system. The older fella on the left there, how that is? It's no good picture of him. Any idea? No, he's another Scot. It's no Mozart, as somebody said to me once. Mozart. It's Adam Smith, the Scottish. You knew that? Adam Smith, sort of 18th century philosopher, father of modern economics, and he wrote one book called The Wealth of Nations, which the right wing, like this, tout as the founding stones of capitalism. And then he wrote a much better book, which he returned to again and again and rewrote it, as they did in those days, called The Theory of Moral Sentiments. And in that book, which is a much better book, and the Penguin edition's got a brilliant introduction by Amarat Sen, by the way, but anyway, that's by the by. What Adam Smith said was that the act of the economy, the act of the transactions between a buyer and a seller, in a sense, was an empathic act. It was an act of a relationship, a connection. It wasn't just a neutral transaction. It was a relationship between people. And in markets, in a sense, extrapolating that, markets is about relationships between people and institutions. It's not a cold act, it's a warm act. It's a human act. It's an empathic act. I need something, you're giving me, I'm giving you money for it. Right? It's something that's more deeper than that. And it goes right into the human consciousness and psyche of what we are as human beings, the act of needing something and somebody else giving you it, and you doing a trade. It's what we do as human beings. And that, I think, is interesting in terms of how we think about economic development. It's an empathic act. And the final person is an American, but she's probably Scottish. Is Jane... you all know her.
Canadian.
Is she Canadian?
Yeah.
Oh, apologies. Right. Yeah, good. Thanks for that. Yeah, the Canadian Scot. Jane Jacobs fought Robert Moses, the architect, the chief architect, I think, or chief treasurer in New York, and she said the intricate minglings of different uses in the city are not a form of chaos; they're the highly developed form of order. And so what she kind of said is that human systems are actually the beautiful bit. And in essence, she says an economy needs to fit around that human system. Now, those three people, I think, are inspiring for us because they tell us a number of things. Economy is about people. Economy of place is a site for building empathy and connections between people. Markets are about relationships. Economies are part of a system. Places are sites for difference and mingling. And developing places is about making them a more economically self-reliant that we get from Jane Jacobs. There's a number of things we can take from those giants. And I would say those people, and maybe some others, are the giants of economic development. It's not your neoclassical economics based on inward investment. It's that broader. I'm on a mission to broaden out and deepen the power of economic development. So it's corporately centred in the nature of our place. Not someone that's like, do a bit of tourism and a bit of business development, that'll be it. No, it's more important than that. The economy is more important. The development of the economy is more fundamentally important. It's the basis to create great lives and fulfilled places, great places and fulfilled lives. Right. Okay, so far. Yeah, so what's gaining ground around the world? Hooking the local into the global whilst protecting the local. This shortening of supply chains, food, energy. This whole thing now is growing that the global economy is a homogenising force. I was in Worksop, it's in Lincolnshire, North Nottinghamshire. Hell of a place, ex-mining town. Beautiful people, looks crap. Yeah. Main Street, bollards, pedestrianised with kind of sandy coloured brick. I could be in any place in post-industrial England, in a sense. There was a homogeneity to it. Its identity that was in the people's hearts were not reflected in the nature of that locality. And economic development needs to build more from the people rather than this generic. And the global economy homogenises. And you know what's lovely is that this homogenising force of the global economy, Starbucks, McDonald's, all that, there's a hankering for the authentic, and we're seeing it in our cities now. We're seeing it. We don't want to go into Starbucks. We do, right? But we want the local coffee shop, don't we? We want to have, it's not just about a transaction to go and get a coffee, thank you, bye-bye. We want a relationship more. Oh, we know who the owner is, or we know the coffee comes from locally roasted, or, but a relationship, a more deep, empathic thing. So there's a hankering for the authentic now, and it's growing across the world. And and many books and people talking about this. The global homogenising forces is creating another force, a desire for the local and the authentic. When I come to Wellington, right, and it was a horrible day when I arrived. It looked a bit like Edinburgh. Yeah. I don't want to land in Wellington and feel that I'm anywhere. I'm important. I want to feel that I've landed somewhere that's got its own identity, and the economy is built around the identity of that place to an extent. There's a hankering for that. We don't want to be anywhere, we want to be somewhere, because all of us are individually, ontologically, feel we want to be important. That's a powerful force. Even investors want to invest. Good investors want to invest somewhere, not anywhere. They want to have identification with places. I was speaking to people from Dunedin last night and what they're doing with Chinese investors. The Chinese seem to have an identification with Dunedin as somewhere, not anywhere. Why the hell in Dunedin? They could go somewhere a lot more bigger place to invest, but there's an identification with that place because they see it as somewhere. Service on demand locally. Every place has its own demand. We all need, green docks, white shirts. Try and service that demand locally as much as possible. And social energy and cultural vitality is input and outcome of economic success. We always tend to get the economy going great, and then all the people will be vital and energetic. I say have vital and energetic people, and it will also be an input to a successful economy. Investment in the social is of equal importance as investing in the hard infrastructure. Because happy people are a factor of production. They're good workers. Happy people. Poor people are bad workers because they're too worried about themselves. Okay. You all right? Am I depressing you? Where am I? Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I want to talk a little bit about resilience and a few concepts and ideas around it that's bubbling around in our head and stuff, what we apply. One is resilience. We believe we need to aspire to economies which can be smart and ready to take opportunities, respond to shocks, create social progress, be adaptable and flexible. What gets me is there's some places where, how are some places in the world really successful and others are less successful? Some places seem to have va-va-voom, and some places don't have va-va-voom. What is the DNA of particular places that got that va-va-voom? It's almost like the holy grail of economic development. Why do some places be able to deal with shocks, grab the opportunities, and some places can't? Is there a DNA? Is there a quality? Yeah. And what we say is we need places, economies, to be and go, the boing factor. This springiness, this agility. Right, I'm going to do a bit of theatre here. Right. A place on its knees, right? Struggling. Yeah? Some places when they're struggling, they stay struggling. Some places in the UK and Europe have been on their knees for 20, 30 years. What's the quality of that place that enables it to go, right, we're having you? What are those qualities that allow a place to bounce back? Yeah? If we can understand that, then we've kind of solved the economic development problem, really. Yeah? And I like to think about places as kind of different animals, and to think through this kind of... Are you with me in this metaphor? I'm probably losing some years, but tough. Bear with me. Animals, I come from Pitlochry. It's a small town, 4,000, Highlands of Scotland, right? It's like a cuddly puppy. Yeah, it's not got much. Quite safe, It runs around quite nice, but it's not going to grow into a fully fledged big. It's always going to be a wee fluffy puppy. Yeah. What would Wellington be? What? Tiger? Sloth? I'm not getting the answers, am I? Huh? A what? Labradoodle. Explain that later, Fraser. The frog's an interesting one, because I'm not saying Wellington's a frog, but the frog's an interesting one. My sister's a biologist, and you cut the toe off a frog, right? And in the DNA of a frog, the toe grows back again. It's called something, isn't it? What's it called? Don't know. Right. You're looking confused, aren't you? You're thinking, where's he going with this? I know. And I'm wondering as well, because jet lag. I know where I'm going with this. Anyway, no, it grows back again. Now, imagine a place like that, though, this bouncing back, this regenerative quality. What happens to a frog? It doesn't get government money to build it back again. Yeah? No. It doesn't get lots of people buzzing around saying, let's fix your toe, frog. There's something in the DNA of a frog that sorts its own problems. Yeah? Imagine that in economic development. We'd all be out of a job, right? But imagine that. Something in the DNA of a place allows it to bounce back in its own right. So we've done lots of work on this a number of years, 10 years ago, and there's the secret. Ta-da! Ta-da! You're not impressed? Commercial economy, public economy, social economy. They all need to cook on gas and all work together. Systems. It's how they all fit together. If you've got the commercial economy on its own, that gets to do its own thing, creating lots of wealth, what you'll have, and I've been there, I've been to Culiacan in Mexico, 14% economic growth. Must be a brilliant place, eh? No, it's shit. Yeah? It's short-term, American foreign investment goes in, you've got people coming over Mexico to work there, they're in crap housing, there's no public services, there's sewage running down the street, and there's actually street battles because they're all come from all different places, there's no social cohesion. Commercially successful, GDP successful, as a place, a nightmare. Yeah? Public economies, places in Britain, or used to be places in the UK, 60, 70 or 8, well, Northern Ireland, they say Northern Ireland, sorry John, where is he? John Lavery, sorry John. I think 60 or 70% of Northern Ireland economy is driven by the public sector because of the troubles and all that sort of stuff. That's not sustainable. That's not a great place because it's squeezing out commercial activity, yeah? You need all of these three cooking on gas. And the social economy is the one that we in economic development tend to disrespect. But it's fundamentally important because individuals and communities are the energy for a burgeoning economy. Yeah? And not only this, what you mean, there wasn't any other stuff? Sorry, Ben. Yeah. It's a factor of production. It's not an outcome, it's an input. And to invest in early years is as equally important as investing in a new train line. Seriously. Seriously. In the UK, we've got this HS2, high-speed lane, London to Manchester. It's going to reduce the time from London to Manchester by 25 minutes. Wow. I'm going to go to London a lot more now. £50 billion. Imagine £50 billion to early years across England. It would transform the destiny of England and transform the lives of so many people. And not only that, not is it morally right, it's economically right too. But no, there's a myopia, a boom-goggling going on in England particularly, which doesn't see that wealth in the social economy. And what's particularly interesting about that social economy point is that it's growing. In we doing work in Barcelona. Barcelona, amazingly successful piece of the global economy. Inward investment, developers falling over themselves to invest in Barcelona. 50% on youth unemployment in some of the outer parts of Greater Barcelona. They've realised that their investment can't just be driven by the boom-goggling. They need to invest in the people. And that's what the new mayor's doing. And that's right. And that's the new wave of economic development, I think, hopefully we'll see a lot more of. And we're talking here perhaps about the role of economic development, not just as an institution in your own little silo. How do you create a network of relationships across commercial, social, and the public sector and the public economy? Another thing I want to share with you, how am I doing for time, Colin? Am I?
About another 10 minutes, I think.
That's brilliant. I'm on that. Here's another thing. We did work with the Scottish Government and Scottish Towns Partnership on the resilience of Scottish towns. And this is a great little website. And what we did is Scotland's got, what's great about the recent times of Scotland, is they realised that Scotland, there's a whole drive towards cities. Yeah? City regions, the big city. That's where everything goes. That's where it all happens. Yeah, move to Glasgow. It's like, oh, forget living in the Highlands. Move to Glasgow. Forget living in, don't live in Taranga, move to Auckland. That's, you've got to go there. Yeah. The Scottish Government kind of thought, hold on here, we're a land of towns. Our identity is in the Tyndrum, the Pitlochries, the Nairns, Forrests, the Dingwalls, the Wicks, the Obans, the Tobermories, as much as it's Glasgow and Edinburgh. Yeah. So 479 Scottish towns above 1,000, And we worked out, this website tells you all about them, and we worked out the resilience, the capacity, the function of these towns according to commercial, social, and public economy. Yeah? And you get things like this in it. So this is like, I won't bore you with the metrics, but what you've got here, it's got a scale of dependent to independent. So how dependent, how independent is a place in terms of diversity of jobs, in terms of its economic function, and how independent it is. So for instance, let's take Haddington in East Lothian near Edinburgh. Yeah, this is Pitlochry. But Haddington, it's dependent on Edinburgh for a range of functions because it's only 25 miles from Edinburgh. Yeah, for high order fitting function. Yeah, but it's kind of independent when it comes to sort of some other lower level nighttime economy, some other kind of functions. These are important understandings of how an economy operates and how we think about an economy. And when you think about place planning and economic development planning, what's the future of Haddington compared to Preston Pans, which is a little bit more inland and further away from Edinburgh? Each town says, I need to have the big superstore. Yeah? Well, you're kind of saying to that place, you don't need this superstore because you're dependent on Edinburgh for the superstore. You should get another function that fits the nature of your place. So it kind of creates a more resilient approach to go with the grain of a locality rather than trying to reinvent so every place becomes kind of the same. Another thing I mentioned is that the local really, really matters here. And this is what we did for the Federation of Small Business. And we found that 63 pence in every pound spent on a small company remains local through their supply chain. They tend to employ more local people, and the suppliers tend to be more local. The multiplier effect is greater with SMEs. And if you think about an SME, the owner is more likely to be from that place, and when they buy a house, they're more likely to buy the house in that place. And they're also more likely, when they've got if they make some money and they want to be philanthropic, they're more likely to help the local girls' dance club or the local boys' football team because they're local. The local really matters in terms of that multiplier and how wealth sticks, opposed to an extractive economy where the investors, it doesn't stick, it's taken away. The local really matters. And they are 40 pence in every pound is spent by large firms. And this, another thing to think about is local wealth building. This is what we're doing across many locations, to think about how do we, opposed to money, wealth, not landing in a place, how do we get it funneled into place? Local jobs, local activity, yeah? How do we get that flow into a locality? Crucial economic development questions. And here's what we're doing in Preston. We do work on this local wealth building, Preston, Birmingham, Manchester, Barcelona, and this is about a whole range of activities that seek to lock in wealth and build that local wealth. So it's not bouncing away, it's funneled in, including things like the local government pension scheme, yeah, which a portion of that resource is being utilised for local investments. So it's not playing the global markets, it's realising it's public money, it's local pension money going into that pot. They're looking at suboptimal return, so they invest locally. So there's this whole flexing of the economy and economic thinking to think about how you get local wealth. I'm nearly there. I know there's people who's interested in social innovation, and we are too. And social innovation comes from two sources, the bees and the trees. It comes from that grassroots energy as well as the big power, the horizontal and the vertical, if you like. And again, in Barcelona, they've identified 20,000 instances of social innovation across Greater Barcelona. It's like community energy schemes, it's local local food production, maker movements, fab labs, all that local economic activity, business improvement districts, these kind of things. All that, they've identified 20,000 of it across Greater Barcelona, and they're looking to create public policy processes at the mayoral level that allow that to grow, because they see all that social economic innovation as a counterbalance to the global economy and the global investment that takes place in Barcelona. They realise its destiny is about both. It's about that large investment, but it's also about that social and growing, the organic development processes. Finally, I would say that what's happened in Europe, and epiphany, I suppose, is that we're kind of in a period of great change, an interregnum, and we're wakening up. The mask is slipping on global capitalism and the follies of the global economy. It's slipping. It's been realised in Europe, I suppose, because we've got massive social issues and we've got public austerity of unprecedented times. The social contract that was built post-war is breaking down, and we're seeing a rise of massive amount of social movements and social energy. And that movement is saying, hold on here, this way the economy works. It's not working for people or for place. We need a new one. My organisation is part of that. It's growing. It seems to me that it's right, and it should spread around the world. We're in a paradigm shift. We're not there yet. The old world is changing. We're moving to a new one. And what gets me out of bed in the morning is the fact that we're building this new one that's maybe more economically and social just. Thanks so much for listening. I'm here for the next 2 days, so I can chat away a lot more. Thank you very much for listening.